Hi, hello, and welcome to Little Dead Aliens. I'm your host, Ben, and with me today I have Derek from several other podcasts. Hello, Derek.
Hello, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Do you want to tell us about the shows that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I have a bunch of shows with Glitterjaw, like Little Dead Aliens is on. I've got Waffly Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. I have Screonk, where we go through Godzilla's filmography. I have Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we look at Simpsons tie-in video games. I have Falling with Style, where you look at Pixar movies and also look at other animated family movies. And I think probably the most relevant for this one is I also have Gimmicks, where we look at high concept episodes of television, and we have done an X-Files episode and plan to do more in the future. So if you like TV history and shows that do high concept episodes like X-Files does, I think you would like Gimmicks.
Awesome. I really like Gimmicks. It's one of my favorites. It's the first show that sort of introduced me to Glitterjaw. It was the first one I listened to. So
Oh, nice. Oh, I love
yeah.
that. That's great. What was your first episode? Do you remember? I'm just curious.
It was the Broad City one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun with Amos.
Because I was into Broad City at the time, and I saw it and was like, okay, I'm listening to this. So yeah, it was Broad City.
I'm glad you
No,
enjoyed
actually,
it.
it wasn't. It was the Boy Meets World slasher one.
Oh, hey, look, again, horror fans, man. That was a
Yeah.
really fun one. That was an early one that we did too. That was a really fun one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I want to do like a get to know you question with my guests.
Sure.
So for you, I have asked, which Godzilla universe monster do you think that Mulder and Scully would be most excited to investigate?
Well, I think one that both Mulder and Scully would be actually interested in. I think it would be Shin Godzilla, actually, specifically because that one is, if you're unfamiliar with it, that's the one from 2016 that is like a mutating creature. Like it is literally like a creature spawned from radiation that then like continually mutates in it's a whole body horror thing. And I think that Mulder obviously would be interested in like the idea of a sea monster and would come in with that, but Scully would actually, I think, be interested in the science of how this radiation like affected something and made it mutate. And it would be the kind of case that I always like where like Scully is actually kind of aware of it because it's not a fully paranormal thing. Like it would be a Fluke Man type of situation where it's like more about like the interesting weird science of it. So Scully gets to kind of be as involved instead of being like totally a skeptic in it, which is always really fun. I think that would be the one because I think all the other kaiju I think are just kaiju, or are just giant monsters or are like magical in a way that I don't know Mulder and Scully are as interested in. There are other, now that I'm thinking about it, there are other kaiju that are like literal space aliens, but I don't know. There's something about Shin Godzilla that feels like a Monster of the Week X-Files episode. And a lot of the space alien Godzilla stories they don't feel like alien conspiracy thriller things in a way that would, I think, fascinate Mulder as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he would just be like, oh, that's another alien.
Yeah, it would be like, well, the whole world is literally seeing this alien invasion happening right now, so I can't do my Mulder thing. Shin Godzilla, it would be like people aren't believing what the sea monster is, and he's like excited to be discovering this like new type of sea monster, and Scully's excited to investigate the science of it. Like I feel like that feels perfect for a Mulder and Scully like investigation.
Agreed. That's a great answer. I think Chris Carter, if you're listening, make it happen.
Yep. They even do there's even kind of like, investigations into like corporate bullshit and stuff in that movie and things like that I think Mulder and Scully love doing. So it just feels very up their alley.
Right. Yeah, that's like the Bryan Cranston one, right?
No, you're thinking of the 2014 American one. Shin Godzilla is a Japanese movie.
Oh, okay. Then I have not seen it.
If you've ever seen like a really gross looking Godzilla that like bleeds a lot, or like the goofy looking kind of like tadpole type Godzilla with the big googly eyes, that's from Shin Godzilla. It's a great movie, especially if you're like into like body horror monsters too.
For sure. Okay, I'm gonna add it to my list. Thank you. All right, so I asked you beforehand if you'd like to do the recap of like what happens in the episode. So if you want to You want to go ahead and do that, please?
Sure. We're talking about The X-Files Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Squeeze, that debuted September 24th, 1993. This is the one with the guy who stretches and contorts himself a lot. It's the very first Monster of the Week episode X-Files ever did. And it is literally a man named Tooms who can make his body stretch out to fit into small spaces, and he's able to get into small spaces to kill people in spaces that they think are safe behind locked doors because he can squeeze into tiny little vents. That's kind of the log line of the episode. But the other weird aspect to it is that Tooms, they also come to find, is like 100 years old and can hibernate every 30 years, emerges to then kill people, steal 5 livers, eat them, build his nest, and then hibernate for another 30 years to stay alive and immortal. So they realize that he's kind of like this sort of genetic mutant that's also born from like a manifestation of evil. It's a weird episode and it's fun to talk about it. Like a manifestation of evil. So he's like a guy, but he's also a mutant, but he's also like a monster, and his eyes turn yellow. And eventually he gets into Scully's apartment and attacks her, but she's a badass bitch, so she's able to apprehend him from there. And I guess the only other interesting part is that there's like a whole side plot about another investigation happening within the FBI that is trying to get Scully to like admit that all of this is bullshit, and she fundamentally sides with Mulder, which I think is kind of maybe my favorite part of this episode. So yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of basic gist of this episode, I think.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. So I just wanted to say that like I don't really enjoy this episode.
Oh boy, it's hot take in the X-Files fandom.
I don't understand. Yeah, it's a fan favorite. I don't understand why so much. It's just a little boring to me.
I can tell you why. I think it's because I was around watching the X-Files when it was originally airing. I was very young when it started, so like I don't have like a strong memory of this episode airing, but I remember like being in the sphere when it was happening, because you weren't watching it when it was originally airing, right? Like you kind of came to it relatively recently. Yeah. And I do think when it was airing, what a lot of people were sort of entranced and surprised by with that show is that like this was a show that actually was trying to be scary and was scary, which I don't think you were finding very much on network TV at the time. And so I think this being the third episode, proving itself that the show wasn't going to always be about aliens, introducing a really weird guy who does really weird stuff and intentionally playing on horror tropes and creating like this sort of creepy ambiance to the whole ordeal. And I think some people watching it were then genuinely scared to be like, there could be a man in my vents right now. That's scary. Like, I think it felt really new and surprising and special to people watching at the time. Because like I do think this episode does feel like a horror movie from 1993 ultimately, and you weren't really seeing that like the way that it's shot and everything, you know what I mean? So I think that like if this episode was in like season 5 or something, I don't think that people would feel as strongly about it. But it literally being the third episode of the show and the first ever Monster of the Week, I think just like it made people feel like there was something new and special. And I think he ends up being kind of held on a pedestal just because he was the first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I also just resent Tooms a little bit because he's like one of the very few, maybe the only, that gets like a second episode. Like there's a second episode about him later, and I think there are a lot of cases that are more interesting that deserved a second episode, like Eve. But I understand objectively it's a great episode. It is creepy and scary. It's just not one of my favorites.
It's weird. It's a weird one. I think it's interesting that like I think it's an interesting thing because I think it's both a positive and negative for the X-Files in that it establishes what they're going to be doing with Monster of the Week stuff going forward. Because I think that like you could have just had a guy with stretchy powers who's a serial killer, and that's enough for an episode. But like the fact, I think one of the things that I think becomes textbook X-Files as it goes along is that they intentionally end up kind of overcomplicating it, where they're like, he can't just be like a mutant with stretchy powers. Like, he also has to eat livers, and he also has to be like a manifestation of evil, and he also has to be immortal. Like, it's just like there's like kind of a lot of hat on a hat stuff happening, and I think that makes this episode like feel really unique because of that, because it's like every scene there's like a new weird thing you're finding out about this guy. But it also is sort of like, why is this happening? You know, like it makes it just it's an odd episode because of that, which I like that about it. But it is strange.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I don't know. It's a good episode. Maybe you're changing my mind a little bit.
Yeah. It also is my favorite Scully line ever. Like, or one of. There's a lot of good Scully lines. One of my favorite Scully lines ever. Because you have Donald Logue is in this episode, like randomly. I don't think he ever appears ever again. But he plays like an old friend of Scully who's also an FBI agent who like hates Mulder because he's super spooky and everything. And like so he has this whole rivalry going on with Mulder, and like doesn't understand why Scully is like even entertaining any of his wacky ideas. And he goes to Scully at one point, is sort of like while they're investigating this like serial killer case. He's like, Scully, whose side are you on? And Scully just looks at him and she just says, the victims. Like, I fucking love that so much. And it's like, yeah, girl, get it. Like,
Yeah.
You know what you're here for.
Scully is the best. Yeah, she's the best of us. Okay, so let's talk about some things in the episode. The biggest thing for me that I see is like the idea of an invasion of personal space. They don't know how he's getting into these places. When they investigate the scenes, like there's no point of entry or anything. Everything, the doors are locked or whatever. They don't know how he's getting in. At the end, we see him get into Scully's apartment, which is really scary because she's like the main character. Even like his lair, Tooms' lair, is invaded by Scully and Mulder. So like there's just a lot of that invasion of personal space happening here.
I think it's very telling that I think this is the first time you ever see Scully's apartment in the show. And not only is it in this episode that's about personal space being invaded, but also like, you know, we've seen her be like a cool agent with a gun and stuff like that running around. And then she comes back to her apartment and like she's about to take a bath. Like that's what she's trying to do. Like one of the most vulnerable things you can do, just sit in a bath, right? And like that's when this guy shows up. And that feels very, very important. It's also like one of the first of like many times throughout this show that Scully tries to take a bath and is stopped by like a home invader or something scary happening. But that always, I mean, because that's like a typical horror movie thing of someone in the shower in the bathtub and that's when the villain comes. Like that feels like textbook, but it also feels very important because how could you not have a home invasion thing and not have someone try to take a fucking bath when they show up, you know?
Right. Hashtag let Scully take a bath. So I have a few recommendations for this sort of in this theme. Did you have any that you wanted to mention?
Before I saw your notes, I was writing down my own recommendations, and 3 of the things I was writing down ended up on your list already. So, yep, you already got them. So at least we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Oh, we'll go for it. Let's hear it.
The first thing that I thought was the 2020 Invisible Man, which is a movie I really, really love a lot. And there's obviously like a lot going on in that movie about like gaslighting and domestic abuse and things like that. But one of the things that I think is really cool and extra scary about it is just this idea of like, you don't know if the killer is even in the same room as you or right next to you. And I think also just the idea of like a killer or a bad guy or invader with some sort of superpower that allows him to more easily get into your space. Like that alone, like just the simple aspect that in the Invisible Man is just a guy with a suit that makes him invisible. And that enough is to make him like one of the scariest like home invaders to ever exist. I think it's similar with Tooms that like, take away all like the liver eating shit. Ultimately, what makes him scary is that he's a guy who can just like contort himself a little bit more than normal, that is enough to make him scary, because that means that all the safe spaces you think you have, and like whether you have bars on your window or you have like things locked or you have screws on your vents, it doesn't matter. He can still find his way in, and he enjoys like the thrill of finding spaces that are hard to get into and getting into them. And that alone is scary. And so I think The Invisible Man has a lot of those vibes in it.
Yeah, definitely. I also Invisible Man was one of the first that I thought of. I don't really think we need to go over the plot of this one. I think everybody is pretty well versed on what it is, but yeah, I think it's a really good fit for this one. Another is The Strangers from 2008, the original.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend the new ones, but um, is this one of the ones that you?
I've never seen The Strangers, but I know The Strangers, and that was the first. Like, yeah, that when I was thinking of, because when I think of home invasion movies, I know that that's a really famous and popular one that people have a lot of love for. So I was like, I can't say that I recommend it because I've never seen it, but it sounds like this is probably The Strangers is a similar vibe. So that was another one that I thought of. Yeah.
Very much. So yeah, like in The Strangers, it's Liv Tyler. These strangers come into her house. She's there alone um, for most of the time. But anyways, yeah, there are several. I saw it pretty recently, within the last few years, for the first time. I don't. It was like a kind of a gap in my horror watching because I don't know why I hadn't seen it. It's very good. There are lots of really creepy moments, but there are lots of moments of the strangers just in the house doing nothing, like, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see them, but she can't. And I think a lot of that really fits with this theme and the way we see Tooms, because he's like in the vents, but you don't know it. Um, so I think it works really well here.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. Another one that I did think of too was also Hush, which I know you have on your list as well. That movie I have seen and really, really enjoy. And I do think the scariest part of that movie is just that it's just like, it's one person and one guy trying to get into her home and like finding ways to do it. And, you know, there's not a lot to that concept, but you can mine a lot of fear out of that. Just like there's something about just feeling like alone and vulnerable in your own home when someone's trying to get in, you know?
Yes, 100%. Hush, which is from 2016. Um, it's a Mike Flanagan movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm not big on home invasion. Maybe that's why I never watched Strangers, but this is like the peak home invasion movie for me. Like, it's so
Sure.
good. Like, after I watched it the first time, I was like, everyone I knew, I was like, have you seen Hush? We got to watch Hush.
It's, yeah,
Like,
really
it's
good.
just so good. So for me, it's like peak. If you're going to watch any of these, I would suggest Hush.
Yeah.
Because it's just really good. And another one I thought of just kind of as a throwaway in this sort of theme is House from 1985, which is like a bonkers movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
It's been on my list for a long time because it looks like right up my alley. But the main reason I've always wanted to watch it is because I think one of the funniest titles of a movie ever is that the sequel is called House 2, The Second Story, which is
Yes.
so funny and so clever. And that alone was sold me on like watching them. I just haven't gotten around to it, but they look really fun.
Yeah. This is like totally goofy. It's not scary, but his house is invaded by creatures, like
Mm-hmm.
just off the wall creatures. It's got George Wentz from Cheers, Norm.
Oh, yeah. Hell
Is that
yeah.
his name? George Wentz?
Yeah, yeah.
He's in it as like the neighbor, and he's really great in it. It's just a really fun movie. It doesn't go with this theme very well at all because it's not creepy at all, but it
You
is
know.
about a house being invaded by, like, I don't even know if they're like, I guess they're kind of demon
Mm-hmm.
creature things, but yeah, it's really great.
I need to move it up on my list more and make it a priority because it sounds really awesome.
Yeah, I would suggest it. And the title for the sequel, Second Story, is just
So
amazing. Yeah,
genius. That's
so
so
good.
funny.
All right. So should we move on to some tropes?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Were there any that stood out to you?
I I think that there's like a body horror kind of element to it, but I struggled with that because it's not like this is a body horror episode. I just think that there is something to the guy being just really stretchy, and like I know that contortionists can kind of creep people out sometimes too. I struggle to find like an actual movie recommendation that really actually feels like it's like utilizing that though, because I feel like you see like contortionists are used in like, you know, like The Ring and stuff like that. Like when you're trying to make a ghost just like crawl around creepily, which is not the same as what this episode's doing. It's more just like the sort of upsetting factor of like, I don't know, seeing a guy's arm sort of stretch out a little bit. Like weirdly, the thing that my brain went to was like Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors, because I think some of the stuff that Freddy does in that specifically, some of the other Nightmare movies too, but also that one specifically is a lot of similar types of body horror-y things that Tooms does, where it's just about like elongating your arms a bit or making your body just like stretch and stuff in ways that are kind of creepy. Like there's something to that. I don't know that I have a better recommendation though for that, even though there's something there with that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. The whole like contortion, the monster being able to contort and stuff. Yeah. I think if
Mm-hmm.
you're into that, then that's a good recommendation. Dream
Mm-hmm.
Warriors.
Yeah.
My first thought was Pennywise in the new It movies.
Oh, I
Like
could
does a
see
lot
that.
of that.
Yeah, totally.
Um, but again, very different, but it does sort of do that like contortion trope
Yeah, like
well.
I think this episode is smart about not, because they wouldn't have been able to pull off like a lot of effects for it. They don't really show him stretching a lot. A lot of it's implied, which does not feel the same as when horror movies utilize it. Usually horror movies like make you see the stretching happen, and that's what's gross about it. This is more like you just kind of imagine what he probably looks like when he's stretching all around and fitting
Right.
into stuff, and that makes it kind of creepier.
For sure. I agree. Yeah. The one trope that stands out to me is like he comes back every 30 years. So that sort of idea of a monster coming back every so
Yeah,
often. And again, it is the
that's a
first I thought of for
great comparison. Yeah.
yeah. And there's the 1990 version with Tim Curry, and then the new ones from 2017 and 2019, which are amazing. And then we just got Welcome to Derry this
Mm-hmm.
year, which
Yeah. Well, and also like the idea, like it's not just the 30 years thing, but like that also kind of fits into like implying that Tooms was born of like a manifestation of evil or whatever. Like so much of it deals with how evil manifests, you know, and persists and kind of destroys communities. And like I think it's my least favorite part of this episode is trying to like imply that Tooms was somehow like related to being born of like the horrors of the Holocaust or something. It feels like in really bad taste, honestly. But I do feel like that I can see them taking inspiration from it when they're sort of creating this character of like, maybe it's not a scientific genetic mutation. It's like a mutation born out of like all the evils of the world. Like that feels very Stephen King it too.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. And in Welcome to Derry, there's a lot more focus on the idea that it's like coming back
Right.
generationally, and like there's a group of people who are like, actively working against that and keeping track of it or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think if that is what stands out and as a cool thing about this episode for you, all of that stuff is going to be good.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just like, my brain's firing with connections now too. Cause now I'm thinking like, I brought up Freddy, like Dream Warriors for like the body stuff, but also Dream Warriors has like the Freddy origin that he was like born out of like all the most evil people in the world, like giving birth to him too in that movie. Like, so
Right.
yeah, and he's like a generational killer. Like he kills the children of like the past generation that killed him. So like I feel like the generation stuff, the evil in the evil stuff, and the stretchy body horror thing are very Freddy Krueger and Pennywise like coded. You know, like all
Yes.
over the place.
I mean, not that anyone needs an excuse to watch Dream Warriors again,
Yeah,
but just watch Dream Warriors again.
I only just watched that for the first time last October, and I had such a fucking blast. That movie is so like, I knew that it's like everybody's favorite out of that whole franchise, and I'm like, everyone's right. I have no hot takes. This movie fucks. It's so good.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so good. It's been my favorite for a long time. I really like New Nightmare a lot too, but
New
Dream
Air rocks.
Warriors,
It's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, Dream Warriors. Sorry. So also under this is Jeepers Creepers. I know a lot of people don't want to
I've never seen
watch
it.
this because of I know there's a lot going on with the person who created it or the director. I don't
I
know
had
all the details,
no
but I know
idea.
that there's issues there that a lot of people don't want to watch these movies. So
Interesting.
I fully understand that. But it is one of the only other movies I could think of that has like a creature coming back every, I don't even remember how many years he comes back in the movies, but my favorite in the series, the original was in 2001. The sequel was in 2003. There are two really bad ones in 2017 and 2022. The sequel is my favorite. It's more of a like a slasher. It's a bunch of kids. They're in a bus on their way from a football game or something. So it's a bunch of football players and cheerleaders who are being like chased down by this creature. And I'm into like the whole slasher creature feature vibe more than in the
Mm-hmm.
first one. There's like two characters basically, which is always less fun for me in a horror movie. I think there should be
Sure.
more characters for more kills. Um,
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense.
but yeah, Jeepers Creepers, he comes back every so often, and they're like figuring out the mystery of like why he's coming back, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a decent movie.
Okay. Never seen it.
You're not missing a ton, but it's
Okay.
again the second one's a lot of fun to me.
Sure. Sure.
Any other tropes that you were thinking of?
Um, Not that I have, but I know you've got another one that I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah, so the other one I was thinking about is like the trope of like someone being somewhere where they're and you don't know
Mm-hmm.
that they're there. Um, which is has a name. Sorry, it took me down this rabbit hole of like this when I started looking through
Mm-hmm.
movies that fit this kind of trope
Mm-hmm.
of the idea of frogging, which is spelled PHROGGING. And do you know anything about this?
I know oh, okay. Like vaguely. I know the idea of just like someone hiding in your house or in your walls or whatever, right? Like that's kind of the gist of it is like that's what that is, right?
Yes. So like the idea that someone is living in your house, like in an attic or crawl space or something,
Ugh,
and you don't
it's
know it.
creepy. It's so creepy.
Um, there is a documentary show series about it from 2022
Mm-hmm.
that I spend too much time in my house alone, like when my husband is away, to like
Sure.
watch this. I'm not going to watch the documentary series.
It's like a legit fear to have. Like that's like really like that's real. That's very scary.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, I don't think I watched a few horror movies that are exploiting this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the people that do it in real life have like malicious intent necessarily. They just like
Sure.
need somewhere to exist.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe the documentary isn't as scary. If you've seen it and you're listening, let me know. But I did watch a few movies. Specifically, I wanted to talk about one called Hangman from 2015, and then there's one called Within from 2016. And funnily enough, the first episode of Little Dead Aliens, I recommend a movie with Jerry Sisto in it, and
Mm-hmm.
Hangman has Jerry Sisto. So
Oh,
I
interesting.
promise this is not a Jeremy Sisto show. I don't have any sort of infinity for him one way
That's
or the
funny.
other. I'm just kind of indifferent to him as a human, but I just thought that was funny. But yeah, so Hangman is a found footage movie, and
Oh, okay.
this guy breaks into these people's home while he knows they're away on vacation. So he
Mm-hmm.
sets up all these cameras in their home and
Oh
is living
shit.
in their attic. So everything we're seeing is either him with a camcorder or like through the cameras that he set up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Within is not found footage, but they're basically the same plot. A lot of the same details happen in both movies. Like Within feels sort of like a remake of Hangman as
Weird.
not a found footage movie. I would suggest Within. Sorry. I think Within was a better movie. Hangman,
Okay.
since it's found footage, is a little boring a lot of the time.
I see.
Um,
So is there a lot like a voyeur element to those movies then, like since they have the camera set up? Or is that only for the feel like it's just only for the found footage structure of it?
it's definitely both because
Okay.
you get to see him like watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Both movies you'll see the characters like watching them through like peepholes or like doors or
Gotcha.
something.
It's
But there's
creepy.
like it's very creepy. They're both very creepy. If you're home alone and you put them on, you're probably going to get creeped out. But again, I think Within is probably the
Mhm.
better movie. Um,
Gotcha.
and there's more plot to it than Hangman. Weirdly enough, in both movies, the killer sneaks into the kitchen at night and like drinks out of a gallon of something and like spits into it. This
God,
happens in both movies. There are a few details like
this is
that happen
rude.
in
Like,
both movies.
come on. Like, you're already living in their house. You don't have to like make their food gross too. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a question. What's the etymology of frogging with a pH? Why is it called that?
I don't know. I kept meaning to look that up and then forgetting because I had the same question. So,
I was trying to Google, like, it's hard to Google it because it just comes up with the documentary, but like, I see it being like, it's like they're like leapfrogging from one house to another. And then I'm like, okay, but then why is it spelled with a PH then? Like, if that's the case. So it's just weird. It's a weird
yeah,
name for that.
I don't know why they did that. Maybe they did the pH for the documentary to make it more searchable
Maybe. That's
and it just
could be.
caught on. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'll look it up and maybe put it in the show notes, but most likely I'll forget to do that and edit this out.
Sure. Who knows?
All right. So lastly, I just kind of like to talk about anything that fits or
Mhm.
sounds like a good recommendation based on like the vibes and styles. There might not be a specific thing, but anything that you might think of that also.
Oh, God, I feel like there's got to be more movies that I can't think of that have like serial killers with like a superpower. Like not so much like I know that this is technically supernatural, but for all intents and purposes, Tooms is just a guy with a superpower, really, that they just make weirder. And I feel like there's a lot of serial killer movies where there's supernatural or there's like a demonic thing involved or a ghost thing involved. But I think just like a killer that has like one extra superpower, kind of like the Invisible Man. I feel like there's got to be more movies like that, but I was really struggling to think of examples of that, you know? Um, that's the only other thing I could really think of, but it's not helpful because I can't think of any examples for it, so I'm not
Right.
sure.
I don't think that I can either.
Like it seems like like an easy slam dunk,
Yeah.
and yet I don't know if they exist. Maybe they're not like mainstream ones or something, but I don't know. Because like there's plenty of serial I think that there's plenty of serial killer movie vibes you could also pull. Like I was thinking of like of like Seven and like Zodiac and stuff like that, a little bit of just like you can't explain how this killer is so good or they have like a really particular, predilection for something. But like that's like any serial killer story that X-Files is gonna have a ton of. Like
Mm.
just like the super powered element feels like there's something there. And I would love to hear from other people like what if they know of like serial killer superpower movies that exist, like mundane kind of not like a Superman super like serial killer, but like a guy with like one extra advanced ability that helps him kill people. Like that feels like that's a genre that has to exist, but I can't think of anything from it.
Yeah, I would like to hear more about that too, because that sounds like something very interesting I would want to watch.
Yeah,
Maybe like the Black Phone 2. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen that.
Sort of
Really?
has like uh, but it's really weird. Like it's sort of enters into like goofy territory which this
That's
episode doesn't, but
yeah, sure. Okay.
maybe what's it called? The Oz Perkin movie, Long Legs. Did you see Long
Oh,
Legs?
I could see a little bit of that. Like there's obviously way more to that movie, but I could definitely see a little bit of like a serial killer with something sort of odd or special about him that makes him better at killing kind of
Mm.
deal. I could see a little bit of that, yeah.
I thought about Alien from the original 1979
Hmm,
because the
interesting.
alien is always like hidden in the vents. There's a lot of
Oh,
like
yeah.
slime and stuff involved with Tombs.
Yeah, a
Uh,
lot of I've never seen so much bile in an episode of television.
yeah, and it's very gross. But like like the alien, the xenomorph has like all that spit and bile and stuff too.
That's a really interesting comparison. That totally makes sense. Yeah, Tooms is kind of a xenomorph. That's really funny.
Yeah. I love I feel like the reason his eyes were yellow was because of the deficiency from not eating lungs, right? Is that
Or livers, because you get
livers?
jaundice. You get jaundice when you have liver failure, and that's usually like yellow skin, and I think can manifest as yellow eyes too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why they came up with that.
Uh, Interesting. Okay.
That was my assumption. Yeah.
Um, and I haven't seen the Blob movies. There's one from 1958, which is
Hmm.
the original, and then one from 1988. Uh,
Yeah.
I haven't seen those, but like I imagine that the Blob is going to be like getting into places it shouldn't, and like right.
Yeah, and it's a lot. I mean, and there's definitely a body horror element to it. So if you're creeped out by bodies doing things that they're not supposed to do, there's definitely a lot of that in the '88 version of the Blob. Not so much the '58 version, but yeah, there's definitely an element of that too, for sure.
Yeah, and definitely like a another sort of hole in my horror watching that I need to
Hmm.
uh fix is the Blob movies.
Hmm.
And the only other one I thought of that is Men from 2022.
Hmm.
Something about the shape of the face of Tooms and the guy that's in Men. Have you seen
Huh.
Men?
No, I have not seen Men. I know plenty of the weird shit that happens in it, though. So I'm
Yeah.
intrigued by it.
Men is really great. It's very
Yeah,
polarizing. I know a lot of people did
sure.
not like Men. I really enjoyed it.
I
It's
love Men.
uh same. But like the dude who is in Men, something about his shape, like I said, the shape of
Yeah.
his face is very similar to Tombs to me. So,
Huh.
and there's a lot of that sort of, he can't stretch or anything, or can he? Yeah, he doesn't really stretch, but like he
Hmm.
is fitting himself into places that he shouldn't. And like there are some scenes that really, to me, fit the sort of vibe of the episode.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
She's also having, the main character is like she's staying at this place sort of in the countryside that she's rented out, and her space is being invaded by
Hmm.
these men, so it sort of fits in that way too. But uh yeah, I think Men works.
Makes sense. Yeah, totally.
And also, like, I watch a lot of horror, and I can't remember the last time I had to like look away from the screen, but Men has a
Interesting.
scene where I was like, I am closing my eyes just briefly, just giving
Hmm.
myself a little bit of relief, as it is a movie that involves an
Hmm.
arm and a mail slot. And that's all.
Okay.
For if you haven't seen it, that just really was too much for me. And that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, yeah. Alex Garland's usually like good about finding just like really unsettling visuals and stuff.
Mm,
So that, yeah,
indeed.
I need to actually just like watch it because I tend to like his movies anyway. Um, yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I would recommend it. So,
Yeah. I did just think of another movie that I had forgotten about. Have you seen No One Will Save You? The
yeah,
alien home invasion movie? I feel like there's like similar lines with that, of like a home invasion thing, but with sort of like a sci-fi kind of element to it that makes it extra scary. Like, again, way more to that movie, but I can definitely see the connections between this and Squeeze.
for sure. And like they're also just sort of there, and she doesn't know how
Yeah,
in a lot of scenes.
that's a
But yeah,
good point. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really like that movie a lot.
Uh, Again, I don't think a lot of people did though. I think it was sort of polarizing. A lot of fans
Really?
didn't like it, but
That's
yeah, after
surprising. I
watching, I
love
was
that
like,
one.
you guys are wrong. This is good.
Yeah. No, that movie fucks. That's shocking to me that people didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other movies that you'd like to recommend? I'm all out.
No, I have exhausted my list. Absolutely, for sure.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun too.
Yeah. I love talking about X-Files. I hope you'll invite me back for many things, because I think X-Files is great. It's one of my faves. I didn't talk about it at the top, but like I didn't. It was a show that I watched very casually when it was airing. When I was like young, and it scared me, but I still watched it anyway. And only, you know, a couple of years ago, actually like committed to watching every episode through. And it's so funny how rewarding it is watching it as like an adult with an appreciation for TV history, because it is just a really stellar show. Even at its like worst, it's really, really fun and really interesting and well made. And like even episodes like this that I know you're not a huge fan of, it's still just like there's not really any other TV show that exists nowadays that's like it. And it's just it's always a real blast to watch and talk about and, you know, get horror movie recommendations out of. So I'm glad you had me on for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're welcome back anytime. I agree with you 100%. My experience with the show is pretty similar. Like I think I was in high school when it was airing at first. And like I had a good friend who was, him and his mom were like really into it. I was just kind of like, I don't get it.
Sure.
And then over the years had started it and watched like through the first like 4 or 5 episodes and then just sort of lost interest and moved on to something else.
Sure.
And 2024 I think is when I was like
Nice.
committed and was like, I'm just gonna watch it all. And then again was just like floored by how good it is.
Yeah, it's great.
And like it's all I wanted to talk about. It like became my personality for like a whole year.
And now you have a podcast about it. So
And
that's how it goes.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much again. Anything you want to plug or tell us where you can find you on any stuff?
Sure. You can find me most places on social media at Derek B. Gayle. I listen to other podcasts at the top. They're all with Glitterjaw. You can find them all at glitterjaw.com. My social media, again, that's Wallop and Web Snappers, my Spider-Man podcast, Screonk, my Godzilla podcast, Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, Simpsons podcast, Falling with Style, Pixar movie podcast, and Gimmicks, the TV show podcast. If you want to learn more about all of those, find them at glitterjaw.com.
Awesome. And again, I'm Ben. You can find me at Little Dead Aliens on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can also check out my stuff on the Glitterjaw site. And thanks for listening. And I'll see you next episode.